How about
Okay,
that?
well, we have as much time as we need, so
And we
short
have all
story,
kind of Shaka
long.
tea, I
Yeah.
see.
So I'm gonna sit back, relax in my Shaka tea, and just listen.
All right,
I'm
right
a
on.
listener right now.
So a few years ago, I was helping a friend out with his spirits company. It's called Cuba Spirits. A guy named Randy Cuba, Okinawan guy. And so he goes, "Hey, Steve, how come my spirits are not selling that good?" And I said, "Well, it looks like it's for cooking. It doesn't look like it's for clubbing or sipping, because spirits, like, if they're not really, it doesn't look fun. It's going to be like a really low price point." And so I said, "I think you need a new bottle." So we ended up making a new bottle for this guy, and we named it Shaka Spirits. And then this other friend of mine says, "If you're going to do something with the Shaka, you ought to know it." And I Googled the heck out of it, right? I mean, I'm a nerd when it comes to doing historical research. So I knew all the kind of the history of it. I knew the whole Laie story. And I go, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And he goes, "Well, you ought to go up there and meet with my aunties and uncles and get the story from their own mouth, because they tell me that not everybody knows the full story." So I hoof it up to Laie, meet with his aunties and uncles, and turns out they're like the three big kapuna in town. And they're like, "Oh, well, we never told anybody the whole story because we didn't want it commercialized inappropriately." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Well, I want to hear it." So they tell me the story. And then they ask me at the end, "Would you help us tell the story? Because we're aging out. We're like late 80s, early 90s, and we need to preserve this for the keiki." And they don't really consume stories the old way. They don't really sit for a chant as much, or, translate it into a hula or a song, a little bit more difficult. But they said, "But all the kids are watching YouTube and they're watching movies. They're streaming." So I'm like, "Okay, so you want to make a movie?" They go, "Yeah, we want to make a documentary." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's not really what I want to do." Because I'm like, this is a Hawaiian story, right? And being Hawaiian, it's like, it's kind of touchy. And I'm not from here originally. So it's like, well, why would this guy tell this story? And he's not even lived it and breathed it for, his family's generations. So I just was like, well, what I can do is, I think it's a really good story to preserve. I'll bring a film crew up here, because I had a crew that owed me some time. We go up there, and I'm going to shoot half a day. And so we shoot 6 kapuna. And the film was galvanizing, because they're like huge characters, right? They're full of life and love and connection and spirit. And I'm like, wow, this is insane, right? So I took the time to write a 1-page treatment, that's what you do in films, like a summary. It's like a pitch deck, basically. And so it sat on my desk for like a year. And after that year, Lauren Nami of Kamehameha Schools comes to my office, and every year she'd come in and look at some of our programs, and some things they fund, some things they don't. Lemonade Alley, lemonade stand contest, they'll fund it. Project Lemon Tree, we plant lemon trees on school campuses, they fund it. Other things they may not fund. So she's looking at this 1-page treatment, and she goes, "Oh, we got to be part of this." And I'm like, "Nah, you guys don't want to be part of this. This is like," she goes, no, this is important. This is, mo'olelo, right? And we can play this at KS for the kids in classrooms. And I go, "Oh, that would actually be really cool to do like a 30-minute documentary, tell this story." And so it turns out there's all these little clips around YouTube, parts of the story, but not all the different stories. And so I start getting into it. And only reason why I started getting into it was Lauren says, "We're going to fund you guys." And I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, how much do you need?" I like $250,000. She goes, "Okay." Well, what?
Wait, who's this person? Can you connect them to me? Because I need $250,000 too.
Everybody knows her, Lauren Name. So Lauren's like, she provides the first funding for this picture, and I'm like, this is going to be kind of fun. And I said, but if you could only provide cultural experts and advisors, because, and again, I'm not from here. So with their backing and their oversight, it was great. And so she, yeah, absolutely. So they gave us 3 cultural consultants to work with, and they've been super good. And some live up on that side of the island. So as I start getting into the story, I find like half a dozen origin stories. And then it's like, okay, so I need to just be responsible as a documentarian now and just tell every single story and let the audience decide for themselves what they want to believe.
Because it's some of the stories are different.
Yeah, completely different. There's
Really?
Maui stories, there's Big Island stories, there's Molokai stories, Kalapapa.
Yeah.
There's Paniolo stories, Portuguese drinking stories. There's Lipia Spinda playing marbles on Maui. I mean, there's a myriad of these stories. So
Yeah.
for us, we're just gathering up all the data and then presenting them in this film.
Okay.
And the Hamana Kalili story is really deep. Like we actually have film footage of him. We've gone through every archive. BYU has been fantastic for us. Like, the whole area out there is LDS, right? And so they're completely into this story and been great. I mean, they helped us mount the Hukilau at Hukilau Beach. It hadn't run in 60 years. So they said one time only. And that actually bears part of the stories is in the whole Hukilau lineage. So, yeah, it's been a super fun run. And more important than the origin of the Shaka, to me, is the meaning. And so, the Aloha spirit is in that. There's more than that. There's this exaltation side of it. There's the Aloha spirit is something to me that needs to go around the world.